Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I thought I would do two reviews in one. One for Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. Okay, so I will start with For the Wolf since I just finished it. So this has been described as being a combination of Little Red Riding Hood and Beating the Beast. But I also see similar news to Uprooted. And actually, when I was reading earlier, there was another one I was comparing to, but now I can't remember what that was. But we have this town, this small city that is haunted by this wilder wood outside of their town, and there is centuries ago a curse was made upon them that the first daughter for the throne and the second daughter for the wolf, and our main character is the second daughter, although I wouldn't argue that both girls are main characters. So our main character, Radaris, or Red, is the second daughter, and she has to go into the woods to meet the wolf. For they're hoping that when they send a second daughter, that eventually the wolf will let their 5 kings go, who were trapped in there centuries ago. And Red is determined to go, but we find out that she also wants to go because a power of the wilder wood was put inside of her when she and her sister, when they were 16, when she turned 16, and their boyfriends approached the Wilderwood wanting to stop and make sure the sacrifice wouldn't have to be made. But it backfired. And we find, throughout the story, we get little bits and pieces of that memory, of what happened that night. So, willingly, Red goes into the forest. Meanwhile, her sister, Nevera, is trying to stop her with help from her betrothed, who also is in love with Red, her betrothed Arik, and her boyfriend, the guy she wants to be with, that Nevera wants to be with, Raffi. But Red is determined, and when she gets there, it's not exactly what she expected. It's still terrifying and dangerous, but when she meets the wolf, he's actually more man than wolf. And she finds out there's more to this. There's more to what's going on than what she was told. And that possibly the wolf is more connected to the people, the first 2 people who started this whole thing, more connected more emotionally than she realizes. And she starts to get to know him, and they form this bond. That is the one thing that might be able to stop the forest after all. That might be able to save her city from the wilder wood after all. And meanwhile, her sister Neve is trying to save her. So she is approached by one of the priestesses, whose name is, what is her name? Let me see, what is it? Oh, Kiri's her name. That's right, Kiri, one of the priestesses who might have some very dark ambitions. And she convinces Neve that she might be able to help save Red. Save Red from the wilder wood. But there's something off about her, something you cannot trust. And meanwhile, Eric is trying to do his part as well to save Red. But he might be risking more than he bargained for. Oh, this was really a fun read. And first of all, I like the idea of a sentient, something being an object or a place being sentient that's normally not sentient like we are. I think that concept is really cool and like creepy, but really fun, to read about in stories, like the idea of a haunted house, or in this case, a haunted forest. And which I think, by the way, I think if, like I said, I also said I felt like there was some uprooted by Naomi Novak in this story, not just because of the whole forest part of the story, but also the I feel like you could compare Red in the wolf's relationship to the dragon and Agnieszka's relationship. Although I had this thought that people that had their issues with Agnieszka and Dragon's relationship, because I know a lot of people felt that it was problematic relationship. I think they might like this one better, because this is less problematic. Like, the wolf is a little less controlling. I mean, he's not as mean to her as Dragon was to Agnieszka, and he also, his intentions, I think, he actually genuinely wants to protect her, but not in a overbearing, controlling kind of way. Like, he's disguising his need to, it's not like that whole, I need to, I'm trying to protect you, but really it's just the disguise for my need to control you. It's not like that in this book. Also, I like that we had two main characters. Like I said, I feel like Red and Neve are main characters because we get both their perspectives. We more focus on Red's perspective and her experience in the wood and the relationship she develops with the wolf. But I like how we also get Neve's story and her trying to set her sister free in being slowly corrupted. Or not exactly corrupted, but possibly manipulated by some not so trustworthy people. And you see how she really loves her sister and she has good intentions, and there's people that take advantage of her good intentions. And right away, there were some people, like right away, I did not trust Kiri. There was something about her that was not right. And there were a couple times the way she described her, the way she looked at people and smiled at people, she described, Nev sees it as very sinister and a little unsettling. So, but Nev is in a desperate situation and is desperate to save her sister, thinking, not knowing the whole story. All she knows is her sister went into the woods and people have died. The other second owners have died and sacrificed themselves, and that's the last thing she wants her sister to do, to die. And she thinks the wolf is a monster. Of course, Red realized that he's not a monster. He's actually very much a human. Very human. He's using, he has a strong connection with the wilder wood. We also have a few other secondary characters, like we have people that are with, like when I first read that, I assumed that the wolf would be by himself, until he meets Red. But we actually have two other characters that are really, which I would love to get to know a lot more. Like the other male character that's not, that's in the castle with him is very reserved, and we don't get a lot about him. He keeps to himself. We find out his backstory and how he ended up trapped in the wilder wood. While Lyra, we see more of her personality. She's very caring and nurturing and kind of like a mother to them, particularly to the wolf. Iman's his name. And then I got through. It was a good pacing. At least I think so. It's just really exciting. Just the idea of this creepy woods, and it's just, like I said, I love sentient stories and forest gods and stuff like that. I think is really cool. The idea of the forest, having, which I guess comes from the fact that I'm a big fan of the whole fairy realm and all that kind of stuff too. But I had a good time with this, and I could see, now I don't know if it's going to have more than one sequel, but so far I know that there's a sequel because there is a sneak peek in here for the sequel. So, and I can see this being a duology. Like, the way it ended, I'm not so sure. I think it's going to do the same thing it did in this book. But I think it would be cool if For the Throne, the sequel, focused more on Niev's story and her perspective, while Red's perspective was a little more secondary. Like it did in this one, with it being the reverse, where Red was the main focus and Neve was coming in and out. But I think it's mostly going to be, I think it's going to be the same thing where Red is the main character along, and Neve is secondary. Although maybe they will change, maybe they'll make her even more, play an even bigger role in this one. Because this one, her perspective is mostly like just, most of the chapters are Red's, but then there's parts when we get back into Red's hometown and we see what Neve's doing and how she's doing to save her and everything. I also like that I like how they included the mirror thing and the fact, the mirror aspect from Beauty and the Beast. There's no Rose this time, just moss and trees and stuff. No Rose. And there are thorns though. A lot of thorns in this. I also, which brings me to another thing I liked is the whole blood magic thing. I think that was really cool when they explored that. But let's see what else. I think that's the only thing I know that was distinctly Beauty and the Beast. Because I wish I could remember was that there was one more comparison that I was thinking of with this book, other than Uprooted, but I cannot remember what it was. So that was For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. And then we have Mexican Gothic. So this is basically like, a Gothic tale. You have Naomi, who she's kind of spoiled. She's very much a princess, and she's a bit of a flirt. And her father and mom want her to find a husband and settle down and stop and make a decision on the career path she wants, because she's very indecisive about what she wants to do. And at the present time of the book, she wants to be an anthropologist. And she has this one guy that she's with that she thinks he's very handsome, is really into him. And she finds out, she and her father receive a message from her cousin, Catalina, that her British husband that she, is him and his family are poisoning her and slowly killing her. And her father, thinking that she's crazy, thinking that her cousin is a little crazy and might need some psychiatric help, and that whenever he writes to them, her husband is not much help, and her husband and his family is not much help. So he insists that Naomi go and visit her cousin and see how things are going and see what is wrong, if her cousin needs psychiatric help or not. And she gets there and things are definitely not right and very creepy and unsettling. They own this big huge mansion that was, they used to own a mining business, but something disastrous happened that destroyed their business and killed a lot of their Mexican workers. And so when she gets there right away, there's this formalness and stiffness between all the members of the father, the head, the family patriarch, his sister, the mother, who I think is the mother of, is her cousin's husband's mother, and then his other cousin. I think that's it. I don't remember the family dynamics. And they have they have these strict rules, like no smoking in the house, no leaving without a chaperone, and there's quite a few other rules, but I cannot remember what those are the two that stick out the most. And Naomi clearly feels like she's unwelcome. She's like doesn't fit their standards, but she does form a friendship and find an ally in the character of, let me see what his name, they give his name. Yeah, I do not remember his name. Let me look at I might get his name there. I'm trying to remember the other brother's name. Let's see. What is his name? I'm trying to find it. Where is his name? Of course, it doesn't say on the last page. I haven't. What is his name? Sorry, I'm trying to find. I see all the other characters' names, but what is the guy that I'm thinking of? The character I'm thinking of. It's not Carmen. There is Ruth is the guy's sister. What is it? Francis, that's his name. I'm surprised I don't remember that because that was interesting. Francis, she, one of the members of the family, Francis, is her only ally. That she spends the most time with, and she feels like he's the only one she can trust. Wow, her cousin's new husband is a little bit weird, and he's very bipolar with his emotions. He feels like one minute he can seem like, I'm sorry if I probably shouldn't use the word bipolar. That probably sounds, but he's very much like, he can seem like your friend and that he's very vulnerable, but then on the other hand, he can seem like a total douchebag and that you can't trust him. So, what I liked about this is, first, I liked that it was a different, instead of Europe, it was a different part of the world. So I'm glad that Sylvia Moreno Garcia wrote this, because it adds a new flavor to that kind of Gothic story. You can find that kind of stuff in all over the world, probably. Those creepy rich rich families, and I also like that Naomi was not perfect. That she was like someone that she was a smoker, and she was a brat. She was kind of a brat, and was very stubborn and didn't listen, and sometimes did things that you're thinking, if you just listen and try not to, But of course, I feel like sometimes if those characters don't do anything and are not stubborn, if they're perfect little angels, then nothing will get done. And then I like Francis's character, but even he, you don't know if she can really trust him, which I really like. I like how you don't know if you can trust any of the characters, because they all just seem weird and creepy, and like I kept wondering if eventually it was going to turn out that he was not someone to be trusted. He was going to betray Naomi at one point. Like, I was very nervous about that. If he was going to turn on her and turn out to be not so trustworthy guy. And pacing was very slow, and enough to build the creepiness and unsettlingness, not knowing what was going to happen, and just, although I feel like they could have amped up the creep factor just a little bit. I also liked that, the extra characters outside of the house when she goes to, into town to find some answers, and goes to I guess she would be a medicine woman or a healer. I don't know what the correct term would be when we meet her. I thought that was a cool addition to the story, and let's see. I don't know if there was anything I didn't like about this one. I just thought this was it was just fun and creepy at the same time. Which actually, they both have a creep factor. Which, I forgot to mention, the only negative I have about this one is I kind of wish we had, more of Emont's perspective in the story than we do. I would love to get his story. I'm very much, especially when, there are certain stories where, like, you mostly are in, one person's perspective, and we see them and their experiences, and there's just, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this will take away some of the intrigue and mystery for some stories, but there's always this thought that I wish when I'm done reading it, I always wonder what the other character's perspective would have been like, especially like particularly. I mean, like the love interest. Like that's how I felt about Jane Eyre too. I always wondered what Rochester's story. I always wonder about Rochester's story, which actually I think there is one in the library that's from Rochester's perspective. I think. So maybe I'll read that at one point. But anyway, yeah. So for the wolf, the only thing I didn't like is that I feel like I wanted to get more of Eamon's perspective. I think that would have been cool. But anyway, so there's really not any negatives about this one. I had a good time with this. It was very creepy. And like I said, I love Naomi's character. I like how she was so unlikable. And she wasn't completely innocent. And, you know, it was just... Now, I will say, it amped up the creaminess by the last stretch. But I wish it was a little more. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what I wanted specifically. But I definitely would have liked a little bit more of the creepiness in this one. So I guess that's the only negative, is I would like more of unsettlingness and creepiness. And maybe a little more supernatural stuff. But anyway, so those are my reviews on For the Wolf and Mexican Gothic. And now that I've filmed this video, I can return these to the library. And I have decided to not pursue this one. I mean, first of all, like, when I started to read this, I was not feeling that great. When I started reading this book, I was not in a good place. And second of all, it's just, like, you know, when it comes to library book, I don't know, you know, I guess because I have a time limit, even though, yes, I can renew it. But, you know, you guys know how I feel about that. I don't like reading. I don't like getting slow reads from the library. So, this is just, and I kind of let myself get a little spoiled for what happens in this book, and just, it's not like kind of a weird situation. I mean, and I feel like this is more something I would rather watch in a movie form than read a book. So, yep, so I'm taking a break from the library again, because I was already feeling the anxiousness of, oh, I have all these library books, and maybe it doesn't help that I have a bunch of my books all sitting here with me, and once I have them all out, it's like hard to decide which one I want, because I'm looking at all of them like, oh, I have to read this one, oh, I want to read this one. It gives me anxiety feelings, and I was just feeling really anxious and anxious last night. Of course, there's also, so I'm going to go ahead and return these library books and focus once again and wait and maybe sometime, maybe this summer I'll start using the library again. But I don't want to get into and I mean, here's the thing though, as soon as I get to the library, because the books are free and you can borrow them for a period of time, it's easy to get caught up and buy it and bring home a bunch of books from the library. Even though, surprisingly, even though my options are limited, I still, it's still like, I'm like, ooh, I want to read this one, and then a lot of times I end up bringing in books and I realize, oh, they're too long and I'm not going to get through them within, It's funny, I'm worried that I won't find anything when I do start using it, but then afterwards, when I start using it, now I start thinking about how, oh my god, I have so many library books, I want to, but I also have my own personal books that I want to, it's just weird. But anyway, so, if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below if you want to be notified with, when I post new videos, and I hope you are staying safe and staying healthy, enjoying your reading. Alright, bye!